Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 354, Monday, February 26th, 2018. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I appreciate all those of you who left comments in the previous video from Sunday. 3 videos, so for those of you who got through all 3 videos, that's really cool. Yeah, it took quite a bit of time there, but the fact of the matter is I had about double that amount of information. I could have easily done like 6 videos. I had to cut a lot of stuff out just to try to keep it. I wanted to keep it down to 2, but I couldn't do it. I got in a little bit into like the 3rd video, about 20 minutes into a 3rd video. But anyway, there's a lot of information, but hopefully you understood the point that where I was coming from about this being a larger frame up with a series of setups. And hopefully I made that case. But anyway, thank you for the good comments on that, and those of you who took the time to watch all 3 videos on a Sunday. So anyway, we got through that. So now we're moving on with a new week and new information. And there was some things that came up over the weekend that I didn't get to because of what I did on Sunday. So let's back up a little bit to this past Friday. Probably the most extraordinary, cool thing that happened actually happened on Friday night. I'm sure a lot of you have heard about this, which is that Trump did a tweet, and in the tweet he was talking about what he's been talking about the fact that Obama allowed the Russian collusion. It all happened under him, Russian meddling in the elections, and he mentioned the hacking, the Russian hacking. Well, when he did that, that caught the attention of KimDotCom. Now, KimDotCom, as far as I know, has never tweeted directly back to Donald Trump, but he did on Friday night. And he tweeted back to him and said, there was no hack. It was a leak. And I know who leaked it. And basically straightened Trump out on the fact that there was no hack of the DNC. Now, he also followed up on Saturday with an even more informative tweet. I'm talking about Kim.com, where he said basically that, he said, of course, he repeated again that the DNC wasn't a hack, it was a leak, and he can prove it. He says that his attorneys have sent 2 letters to the executioner, Uncle Bob Mueller, to volunteer to come and testify and provide him with evidence that it was in fact a leak and not a hack. He said that his attorneys have not received a response from Mueller, even though they've sent 2 requests volunteering, with Kim.com volunteering to come and provide his evidence and his testimony. Mueller doesn't want to hear from Kim.com. He also said in that tweet that it was a CIA hit, likely a CIA hit, on Seth Rich to protect Hillary and the anti-Russian narrative. And of course it has a lot to do with billions and billions of dollars in defense contracts and our general foreign policy and that type of thing. But he did say it was Seth Rich with a memory stick, and he knows it, and he knows why. Now, we know that Trump pays a lot of attention to this kind of stuff, and he probably knows all about the Seth Rich questions and things and such. We know that Trump questions all that, and we know that he had his CIA director, Mike Pompeo, have a sit-down with William Binney, one of the veterans for truth or whatever, VIPs, the Veteran Intelligence Professionals for Truth. So he had Pompeo sit down with Binney, and Binney's #1 topic is about the fact that the DNC wasn't hacked, but rather it was a leak. So it's pretty interesting. You have Kim.com answer directly to a Trump tweet. And we'll see if we hear anything else that Trump tweets up to follow up on that. But, yeah, Kim.com getting reinvigorated and getting back into the game. And, again, I think a lot of us know that if you really want to unravel this thing, investigate the Seth Rich murder and look at those servers. Because I think if we look at those servers, we'll find exactly what we've been told by the forensicator and Kim.com and his investigators who he hired to look into that as well as other people who've looked at that and have said the download speeds, the location from where apparently it came from, the time zone, the region zone, and all these things that are captured and whenever you transfer files, all show that it was a local area network, a LAN breach, and that whoever did it, just like KimDotCom was saying, it was downloaded onto a memory stick, and we know who that was. So a good investigation of those servers and a real investigation into Seth Rich, and we could really unravel this thing. And that's what KimDotCom is talking about, and I'm pretty sure that Trump knows all this. Well, my friends, I talked to you a couple times last week about my sheriff making national headlines. Well, he really made national headlines. I think it was Sunday morning when he was on Sunday Morning Fox and Friends. Yes, my sheriff, Richard K. Jones, with his 10-gallon hat and the whole 9 yards. And he was talking about the program where he's been arming students and other faculty and custodians and school bus drivers for years here in our county, all of our schools. And he said at one point that we have, he won't say the exact number, but it's over 400 within our local school district in our county here, over 400 individuals, which are teachers, custodians, bus drivers, people that work in the schools, maintenance people, who are armed on school grounds. Lots and lots of armed people on school grounds. And so he did a great job on Fox and Friends. And you guys think I'm joking about my sheriff. I'm not joking. So I'm putting a link right into the description so that you can watch my sheriff, Richard K. Jones, on Fox and Friends on Sunday morning, laying it out. And you'll see, when you watch the video and see my sheriff, you'll understand why here in Butler County we're perfectly happy walking around with guns hanging off of us and hanging in our trucks and hanging off our hips, and anywhere else we want them. Walk down the street with him, we don't care. He don't care, he loves it. So keeps the community safe. So anyway, click on that link in the description and watch my sheriff here, Sheriff K. Jones, making national headlines now for the third time, and watch him lay it out straight as you can lay it out, and you'll see exactly what type of sheriff we have here. He's right out of almost like out of an old 1800s Western or something. He's total brass tacks, common sense type person, and it's just funny to watch him because he's kind of a country guy, and it's just kind of funny to watch him on Fox and Friends. And I think even Fox had even surprised them. Exactly the straightforward common sense that he dropped on them, and then when he told them about how fast, when he started his program, how fast literally teachers, he started the program to train and help assist in getting concealed carry licenses to all these teachers, and within 2 days he had to shut the program down because they had too many people apply. He said it would start out with like 50, the next day it was 100, then it was 200 and 250, 400, and he had to shut it down. So we don't know how many armed teachers, custodians, bus drivers, maintenance workers that we have on our school properties who are armed, but we know it must be over at least 400, maybe over 500, could be more. So yeah, click on that link in the description and watch my sheriff, Sheriff Richard K. Jones. He's great. So check it out. Let's see. 75 lawmakers, including the Speaker of the Florida House, have called for Sheriff Israel to step down or be fired. He knew his deputies never entered the school before the CNN video, just as we talked about a couple of days ago. And I said, when we were talking about that crazy CNN setup, so-called town hall, nothing. He didn't say anything in that entire town hall. The fact that he knew he had 4 or 5 deputies out there that didn't go in, he said nothing, even though we now know he knew about it. Look, he knew about it the day of, probably within an hour of that event going down. He knew. And so this, again, it goes back to raising the question that many other people, including me, are asking. The first day when we just found out it was one sheriff, you could say, okay, deputy sheriff, he's armed, he's on the school grounds, he's a resource officer, he should have gone in, he didn't, he froze up, he's a coward. You can come up with any excuse you want. There's probably various excuses. I don't know what they would be, but plenty of excuses you might actually be able to throw out there. But it's nearly impossible to defend 4 or 5 deputy sheriffs. They can't all be like that. It tells me and many other people that there was some sort of an order or regulation or rule or something they were following that they didn't go into that school. He said nothing about that, and apparently he's not answering that question because apparently he has been asked. Now a lot of other people are asking, including members of Congress, people in the State House in Florida, other people surrounding districts. My sheriff asking the same question. Was there some kind of a stand-down order or something? Because it's hard to believe that 4 or 5 deputy sheriffs didn't go in. At this point, there has to be something else going on. And I think it could be that they had maybe some sort of a stand-down order or some policy or some rule or something like that. I've had a couple people in the comments section leave comments suggesting other things similar to that. And but we haven't had anything official. I think we're eventually going to maybe get to the bottom of this because the pressure is building on the sheriff. And, when you listen to him talk, it's pretty obvious he's not really a resident, a lifelong resident of that district in Florida. He sounds like he's from either New York or New Jersey or something. He's probably a left-winger from New York or New Jersey that moved down to Florida, got the job as sheriff. He's a SJW snowflake sheriff. Now, my mom and I were having an email conversation, and she knows that area of Florida very well because her and my dad spent, the winters down in Florida for years until he passed away. She doesn't really go down there anymore too much, but before my father passed away, they used to go down to Florida like right after Christmas, and they didn't come back until like March. And they were all over Florida. And they know that area pretty well. And my mom said it is a very left-leaning, left-wing sort of part of Florida down there. So, yeah, they're a bunch of liberals. They got themselves a liberal sheriff. That's what they got. And now they got a bunch of dead kids. Had they had Sheriff Richard K. Jones, those kids would be alive right now. But anyway, lots of people now, 75 lawmakers, as well as the Speaker of the State House in Florida, calling on the sheriff to be fired. In fact, the governor can actually fire the sheriff. So, yeah, I think the governor there, Rick Scott, although he's kind of gotten weak in the knees, sort of bending to the libs on giving up Second Amendment rights. So I don't know that he's someone we can trust anymore. But anyway, yeah, he can fire the sheriff. And certainly, as other people have made in the comment section, I just watched a video by Piper Report where Piper Report makes a very good suggestion that we've talked about here and other commenters have made, that I believe there was an issue with dereliction of duty on behalf of that cop, and if all 4 of those cops or 5 or however many were there on the scene, and that would include the sheriff himself or anyone else who instructed those guys not to go in, that's dereliction of duty. That's your job. There's a reason why you got a gun and a badge. That's exactly why you're there. That's what your job is. That's why you're there. And Piper makes that report, makes that very clear in his Piper report. So, anyhow, the pressure is building on Sheriff Israel, and he's a pathetic son of a bitch, and playing up to those left-wingers in that CNN so-called town hall. You could see it all right there. You could see it right there, exactly what type of individual he is. So he's not the sheriff. He's a social justice warrior. He's a politician. He's a Democrat politician. He's not a sheriff. Sheriffs kill the bad guys. Sheriff Israel. You didn't. Because you're a hack. A left-wing SJW politician posing as a sheriff. A lot of people also made comments in the comment section on that video that I'm referring to about the video where it shows the cops bringing like a duffel bag out of the school. And I guess people were wondering what that is. I guess there's various conspiracy theories about what that may be, what the cops would bring out. Well, what they were bringing out there was a duffel bag that contained the body armor, the helmet, and the bulletproof clothing, the Kevlar clothing that this shooter had. When he went into the school, he also had like a helmet, a mask, Kevlar vest, other equipment with him, as well as the gun, which was in a case or a soft bag, soft carrying case. That was all the paraphernalia he had. And after he got up to the 3rd floor and did his shooting up on the 3rd floor, he then got out of all that gear, dropped his weapon, and then he exited the school so that he could blend in with all the students running away. So he left all that garb right there on the floor, and they policed it up and put it into a duffel bag and took it out as evidence. So that's what the duffel bag situation is. Well, we of course had the father of one of the murdered children. I believe it was a girl, and we had her father show up on Fox News with the Chris Ratboy Wallace. Now, Chris Ratboy Wallace is a lefty like his father, although his father was actually a card-carrying member of the Communist Party, Mike Wallace of 60 Minutes. I don't think Chris Ratboy is a card-carrying member, but he's certainly a lefty, and he seemed to want to play the anti-gun sort of take on things. And I was very happy to see the father of this murdered girl not let Ratboy get away with that. He called Ratboy out and made Ratboy look kind of stupid and kind of cowardly. And thumbs up to the father of that murdered girl who had the courage, especially based on the circumstances. I'm sure very, very difficult for him to even do an interview. He's probably grief-stricken to the max. I can imagine how he can even go on a show like that and not break down, but which he did not. He did a very good job, and he didn't let Ratboy Chris Wallace drop his anti-Second Amendment garbage on him. Instead, he stood firm and gave Ratboy an education and straightened him out. So congratulations to the father of the slain girl in the Florida shooting for taking it to Chris Ratboy Wallace and straightening him out, although he's a goofy lib himself, and so I don't expect it actually sunk in, because they're not capable of logic or reason. They're just lefties, and it's all emotion to them. And of course, Chris is of course playing to his base, and his base is in Washington D.C., and we know what that is: 95% libs. Yes, his daddy, a lot of people don't know it, but his daddy, Mike Wallace of 60 Minutes, was a card-carrying member of the Communist Party, as was Walter Cronkite. And actually, Walter Cronkite was actually a socialist. I don't think he was a communist. I think he was actually a socialist. Never ever said it until actually he was finished with his media career. And then he admitted it in an interview that he was a supporter of the socialist ideology. But he was a pretty good reporter. I remember watching him when I was a kid growing up. Cronkite, that's who was usually on the nightly news in our house that we watched. And I do remember probably most vividly always sitting there at the dinner table, because he came on at 6 and dinner hit the table at 6. That's where everybody was at 6 o'clock, eating dinner with the TV right in the other room, listening to Cronkite. And every night he started his nightly news with the body count in Vietnam, and his first report of the night was always Vietnam. So, and of course he was heavily opposed to the Vietnam War, obviously, but he was somewhat of an honest reporter, though. I mean, he would pretty much report the news. I mean, he had biases, obviously, back in those days, but nothing like what you see today. I mean, even at their absolute worst, back in the days of Cronkite and even the old days of CBS, the early days of Dan Rather, with exception of the fact that Dan Rather, of course, he wasn't an anchor back then, but when he was reporting on the Kennedy assassination, and he, of course, said, yeah, you know, the shots rang out and Kennedy lunges down, and then of course years later we get to see the Zapruder film and see that Kennedy actually gets knocked back into the left, and then that's when we all knew that Rather was lying his ass off, because he saw the Zapruder film. What he was doing was he was actually there. He was from Texas. He was on the scene there actually, and once it all happened and he found out that there was a videotape, CBS told Rather to go find the guy with the video and to make him an offer on the video. And Zapruder let Rather see the video, but the amount of money they offered him, like, I forget what it was, a couple $1,000, Zapruder said no thanks. He ended up selling it to Time Life, and of course Time Life sat on it for, let's see, 10 or 11 years, and then they finally released some of it, but there had been slides taken out. So it was in the Time Life magazine. It wasn't the video. Years later, of course, we actually got the Zapruder video. So anyway, that's what's going on there. We also have the second highest ranking Democrat in California, now getting the no confidence vote. We already know that there's a coup d'etat underway against Nancy Pelosi by the Democrats in Congress, in the House, are right now working behind the scenes to force Nancy Pelosi out. It's hard to do. They've tried it this will be the third time they've tried it. Maybe they'll succeed this time, I don't know, but they're certainly trying. But she has also gotten the thumbs down from the California Democratic Party. The leaders of the California Democratic Party have given her the thumbs down. But now it appears that they had a function over the weekend, and it appears that the California Democrats have failed to endorse Dianne Turn In Your Guns, Mr. and Mrs. America Feinstein. Now, she's 84 years old. She's been the senator there for God knows how long, 40, 50 years or something. I mean, forever. I mean, just forever. So finally, Dianne Turn In Your Guns, Mr. and Mrs. America Feinstein, 84 years old. I think the sun may be setting on her career in Congress, and it should. The woman's nearly senile. She's nuts. And now she's even lost the support of the California Democrats, but not for the reason we would not want her back. No, just the opposite. For us, she's too far a liberal, and especially an anti-gunner to the max. That's her number one issue. She's an anti-gunner, hates the Second Amendment, wants to ban all weapons. But no, this is because she's not far left enough. Same with Pelosi. The reason that the California Democrats are offing Pelosi and Feinstein and others is because they are hell-bent on getting single-payer. So they've decided, and this is not just the Democrats' party in California, it's the Democratic Party in all 50 states. They've decided that that unless every single Democrat running for re-election in the House or Senate will go out and campaign on and support single-payer health care, they're not going to endorse them. And this is going to wreck that party even worse than it already is for 2018 and 2020, because it's really hard to go out there and endorse single payer. It will bankrupt the country, and they know it. I mean, they've got the numbers to prove it. What that would cost, and on top of that, they want free education. That too would bankrupt the country. I mean, it's just they want these Democrats to go out and endorse positions that'll get them thrown out of office. So I guess they're going to do it for them, throw them out of office, deny them being reelected, and then they're going to, I guess, try to run these Democrats are going to go run on, the Bernie platform, single payer, free college, and all these things. And I mean, these things are going to cause them a huge loss. So I'm very happy about all this. I mean, I'm sure they'll win California and New York and New Jersey and Connecticut and Rhode Island and those states, but they're going to lose everywhere else in the country. I mean, they're going to lose everywhere else in the country. They're going to lose a lot of Democratic seats if they force these Democrats to go out and run on single payer. And, I mean, we saw what Bernie did. I mean, Bernie did pretty good in the Northeast. He did pretty good in the rural liberal states. But if you look at how Bernie did in the South and in the Midwest and even the Southwest, I mean, he got smoked. And Hillary's horrible. Hillary is absolutely horrible. Lots of Democrats held their nose and voted for Hillary because they couldn't support Bernie. And, I mean, she smoked him so bad in the South. I mean, she was winning by like 80% to 20% all over the South. In the Southwest, she killed him. In the Midwest, and Hillary's horrible. So these progressive Democrats, they're communists, basically. They just don't get it. Progressive is just another word for communist. That's really all it is. I mean, they're commies. And so, Pelosi tried to explain this to him, and of course, about 2 or 3 months ago, we did that on the video. She tried to explain to them the issues with single payer. She's seen the numbers. She knows. And if you remember, she got shouted down in that speech, and she had to be escorted by security out. And this was a room full of Democrats in California. Nancy Pelosi and Dianne Turn In Your Guns, Mr. and Mrs. America are not liberal enough for the Democrats. That's how bad it is. Well, the Democrat memo came out on Saturday night, and it is, of course, a joke. Just as Nunes explained it, and other people, even before it came out, because they'd read it, explained it. Essentially, I guess most of you have read it by now. It's a joke. It's really what it is, and it's already being looked at as a joke. Let's just go through a couple things from the Democrat dossier, or their memo, or whatever. Well, the first thing is that they try to, again, justify the surveillance of Carter Page because of all his contacts, and they've been watching him for years, and this and that and the other thing. Yeah, he works for, and he's an energy consultant, and his territory is Russia and Ukraine and Eastern Europe. He's a number 2 man for Merrill Lynch. It's his job to talk to Russians and Ukrainians and people in the Eastern, former Eastern Bloc about energy and things. That's what he does for a living. But if he was guilty of all these things, then why isn't he in jail? They've been investigating him for years and years and years. He's been wiretapped. He's been surveilled. He's been followed. He's been had his emails read. I mean, the whole 9 yards. If he's so guilty, then why isn't he in jail? He's never been arrested or anything else. They failed to mention that in the Democrat memo. They also try to say that the dossier, believe it or not, they actually say in the Democrat memo that multiple sources have confirmed the dossier. Multiple sources have confirmed the dossier. Now, I sat right here and debunked the entire dossier for you just about a week ago, as have many other people. There's nothing in the dossier that's really true, other than the fact that Carter Page went to Europe. He works there. I mean, things, and that's all stuff that came open source. That's stuff we know. It's not, but what we're talking about here is the actual charges of him being a spy or working with the Trump campaign to work out some deal. No, nobody's proven any of that, or the PP-Gate story, or proven that they have blackmail material on Trump, or any of these other things. None of these things have been proven true, but that's what they try to tell you in the Democratic memo. Not only that, we had Comey himself come out and say that the dossier is unverified and salacious, despite the fact that he signed off on 3 warrants using the dossier, which of course he'll probably go to jail for, and he should, and he better. It also says, let's see, they say nothing about Andrew McCabe. Really, the fact that Andrew McCabe said in his testimony that the dossier had to be used in order to get the FISA warrant. He says that they wouldn't have got the warrant without the use of the dossier. They also want to dispute that, and it's indisputable. I mean, the evidence is there. That's why we're eventually going to get the FISA, the transcripts. That's why we're eventually are going to get the transcripts. And then they'll look even stupider than they do now, because all this will be proven. He's talking about the fact that they say in this Democrat memo that although the FISA court knew, they were well aware of where the dossier came from and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, they knew all about it. No, they did not. No, they did not. The only thing was on the very last page of the application, they said there may be a political, situation here with something going on here. It may be political. But they didn't say anything about the fact that Hillary paid for it and the DNC paid for it and that Christopher Steele, the foreign agent, was the one who amassed the information, allegedly, and all these other things. Didn't say anything about all that, even though they knew it all. They misled the FISA court. That's the bottom line. But here in the Democrat memo, they try to brush over every bit of that. They never said in the Democratic memo anything about the fact, they talk about the Isikoff article, yeah, but they didn't talk about the fact that Christopher Steele was the source of the Isikoff article, which means that he was the source for both the dossier and the Isikoff article, which would invalidate their reasons for getting the FISA warrant in the first place. Again, another thing that they know for sure in this, but this Democrat memo is pure politics. It's nothing more than the media needed something. They're begging the Democrats, give us something that we can chew on, that we can give our viewers, that we can lie to them about to keep them from getting sucked into the truth. And so the Democrats didn't even want to put this out. They let it sit for 2 weeks in the basement of the House Intelligence Committee. They finally went in and made the changes they had to make. They got the thing out there only so that their friends, their allies in the Democratic media, the left-wing media, would be able to have some way to try to throw some more garbage and lies out there to try to keep their viewers attentive and keep them from going elsewhere. That's all this was about. It was nothing more than to try to give something for their collaborators in the left-wing media to hold on to. That's it. It's also funny, they talk about, they try to make Page seem like he's some sort of a super spy or something. But we know from the intelligence reports that the Russians thought that Page was an idiot. That's their words. They thought he was an idiot. So the Republicans have released their own counter memo where they knock down everything in the Democratic memo. It's a complete joke. And if you want to see someone literally go line by line and just blow the entire thing out of the water, you can watch Catherine Herridge of Fox News. She did a 7-minute video, and in 7 minutes, she debunks the entire Democratic memo line by line. Well done, Catherine Herridge. Well, the Mexican president has canceled his plans to visit after a phone call he had with Trump, where Trump told him that the building of the wall has begun and you're going to pay for it. And when Trump told him that, yeah, we're building the wall, it's happening right now, and you're going to pay for it, it made the Mexican president mad, and he has decided to cancel his visit. It's pretty funny. Yeah, and they're getting ready to cancel NAFTA on him, too, if they don't straighten up on that as well in those negotiations. So he's a sissy, too, this Mexican president. Yeah, he's a piece of work. Then we had Mona Charen, who somehow was invited to speak at CPAC. She's a hardcore anti-Trumper. She's been going out there on NBC and CNN since Trump was running for president, assaulting him verbally. She's a hardcore anti-Trumper, and so they asked her to speak at CPAC, and she did her anti-Trump routine. She got booed off stage, and they had to escort her out of the building with 3 security people. Mona Charen, we don't need you. We don't need you. Go back to CNN and MSNBC and all your liberal friends and hang around with them. We don't like you. We don't want you. We don't need you. Mona Charen, go away. Oh yeah, another thing about Adam Schiff. He has now admitted, in fact he just did so on Sunday morning, admitted on CNN that he was the leaker. Just as we all know, he was the guy who leaked that information from Don Jr. during that meeting, which was, I assume, classified. And, of course, Don Jr.'s lawyer has responded. Yeah, so we talked about, about 2 months ago, they were having this Q&A with Don Jr. because he wanted him to come in and answer questions, so he's in there answering questions. And at some point, Schiff walks out of this hearing room, and he goes directly and calls someone at CNN and gives him this information. Everyone knew it. They saw him walk out of the room, saw him make a phone call. He comes back into the room, and within 5 minutes, there's CNN reporting on what just actually happened in the meeting. Everyone knew. But now, it's basically, we know for 100% for sure, because Schiff admitted to it on CNN on Sunday morning. Admitted to it. Now, I don't know if that was classified or if that was a violation of the rules. It probably was. But they need to kick him off the committee. We've seen enough of his act. I'm sick of him. Schiff needs to go. He needs to be kicked off the committee. Okay, well, that's what we got for today. I appreciate y'all tuning in. Thank you so much. Pretty much everything I covered today was leftover news from Friday and Saturday. So hopefully tomorrow I'll get back with you and we'll have some fresh news, and we'll see what drops next. You just know it'll be something. Every day it's something. So I'll see you guys on Tuesday. Take care. Bye.